So hello everyone. Very happy to be with you today for this podcast series following the release of the Asia Pacific Perspectives Report. So for our audience, the Perspectives Report is a compilation of opinion papers articulated around grand technology themes and written by Capgemini employees all across the Asia Pacific region. So today we're going to be talking about one theme in particular, which is digital transformation and customer experience. And I'm glad to have with me four contributors of the report, along with Kim Douglas, head of Capgemini Invent for Asia Pacific. Hi, Kim. How are you doing?
Hey, hello, Theo. Very well. How are you?
I'm good. Kim, you're based in Singapore, right?
I am. Yes.
We have two other people here from Singapore. We have Janice Lim. Hello, Janice.
Hello.
And we have Waishun Shea. Hello, Waishun.
Hey, hello.
Moving away from Singapore, we have also Yachi Zheng from Capgemini China. Hello, Yachi.
Hi, everyone.
And we have Kai Fukumori from Capgemini Japan. Hello, Kai.
Hello.
So very glad to have you with me today. Thanks for being there. As I was, mentioning in my introduction, all of you wrote opinion papers and, to an extent, kind of touched upon a similar topic, which is the digital transformation and customer experience topic. You all took different approach, different angle. And it's actually quite a broad and large topic. When you talk about things digital or digital transformation in general, it's often quite difficult to give it a clear definition, I would say. But maybe we could try to put some words on what we're trying to talk about here today. So, Kim, for instance, how would you define digital transformation yourself?
It's a fabulous question. And one that's, I would say, wholly over discussed and probably, become a little bit jargon centric for it. But let me try and put it into two parts of the conversation. First of all, I'll start with what I consider it to be ostensibly, which is, and then I'll discuss why I think it's worth doing. But the what aspect, and there's lots of different frameworks and so on. The one I've always fumbled around with and seems to work for at least me is sort of a somewhat linear logic around the steps to becoming a different company. The first one is primarily, basically adding digital, basically technology to the company at the front stage to allow the company to start to go to market using the technologies or the digital tools of the age. It doesn't have to be just go to market, it can also be inside the company. So the first stage is adding digital sort of, capabilities, as it were. That predominantly costs you money. It's a period of mass confusion for most parties, and it's a somewhat underwhelming period of 1 to 2 years for a lot of folks, kind of putting the plumbing in, as it were. The second phase is actually digitization. Again, it largely costs money because you've now got sort of two worlds often running, legacy systems and net new ones, old ways of working, new ways of working, multiple partners, old and new, and so on. But the primary period of that is to be starting to think about digital at the core, starting to think about the company you can become, the relationships you can achieve with your market, or the efficiencies or the optimizations you can bring to the table, and remove some of the impediments that you otherwise saw in the old way the company was set up. So first phase is putting the plumbing in. The second phase is starting to think about the market as a different business. The third phase is, I would just call it mass personalization, for want of a better term. And whether it's invoicing at one end through to subscription models around, co-created products and relationships and APIs and so on at the other, it's principally about offering new services to your customer. If you're a product company, you can start to offer services around it. If you're a service company, you can start to productize around it. Primarily through I would say a one-to-one understanding of your audience, what they really want, when they want it, in the place they want it. And you can really start to derive value creation out of that. So personalization. So the first one is digitization of your stuff, then thinking digitally around it. And then the third one is starting to bring real value to the marketplace in an intimate manner. The fourth phase is somewhat, I would call, sort of I guess, entrepreneurial level of enterprise kind of at a new scale. And so that's when you've got large companies starting to act like startups, where they're starting to sell products off their own platforms through chatbots, through fully automated relationships with predictive models running underneath it, in different environments that aren't yours, where you've got other companies selling your services through a conversational app in a system you're not even in. And you never have to drag someone back to your own digital space, and get their details in a clunky manner and put them through your system to actually build, sell products and services to them, or be customized into other people's products and services. So that's being able to sort of start to turn up in the ether, as it were. So that's the sort of most advanced phase, as it were, when you're fully operating in a transformed manner. So that's how I would see it at a simple level.
Yeah, it's interesting because it from hearing from what you just said, it really sounds like it's really there is an entirety to the process. It's kind of a complex thing. It touches upon all different aspects of the business, from what you are to what you want to be, and I think it shows how complex it can be. Let's kind of eventually take some concrete examples. From let's give it an industry perspective. Yachi, for instance, your paper was about digital transformation in the automotive industry. So you were writing about how digital, I could say, was kind of reshaping the way the auto industry was providing services, or it was even kind of projecting itself in the market. So could you give us a bit more, could you elaborate a bit on this based on what you wrote in your article?
Okay, thanks. So I think, in my opinion, everyone heard about the digital transformation for a long time. From my side, if we want to talk about transformation, we need to know what currently stage is. In past, we would like to say a word about the information. So people would like to collecting the data, and they want to make things more automatic. So for currently, because I work with the automotive industry for several times, I see that most of them, the more and more vehicle companies are focused on automated driving today. Even though most of us have not really feel about it, it's important for auto industry in today's society. As the population and the environment change a lot, the new regulations and the laws put a lot of restrictions for those companies. So the traditional manufacturing needs to change their perspective. We are not living in the world only produce products which customer needs. Today's society needs to focus on service more than product itself, which means we call the add values. So in my opinion, the best use case for automated driving would be for new forms of sharing transportation service. It can create more demands for the existing consumption system. As we know, currently, if a customer gets into a 4S store, they usually look at the price, the outstanding performance, fuel consumption, and the qualities of those cars. Therefore, the vehicle companies need to research and development on their products. They need new models, lots of tests of their qualities, some improvement of their energy saving. If we change to share transportation service, the vehicle will only become a component. So the company will need to change the focus on how to deliver service to their end customers. So since the 5G will become more and more popular in future, the Internet of Things must build to a next stage in this new tech. So I think this also will become a big chance for current automated driving technology. Just imagine that you live around 10 kilometers away from your company to home, but it's always take around 1 hour since the traffic jam. It's not only because the ride lights, but also affected by people who always want to get to their destination as fast as they could. If we could add automated driving here, you just need to open some apps like Uber, and those vehicles will automatically stop in front of you and send you to where you want. Computers will control all lines, and no machine will try to break the line because they will not think about, I will go faster if I overtake that car. So that's what I think about digital transformation in automotive industry.
Yeah, so it's very, and again, I think it shows how from the automotive industry kind of adding technology to achieve some sort of new level automation of their product. It's really interesting to kind of imagine how it could also impact the way we consume these products, and even something as commoditized as a car, I would say. Um, Kai, yourself, you in your paper you talked about the banks. I understand your field of expertise in Capgemini Japan is the financial services sectors. So you worked with banks and insurance customers. So how would you could you give us a view on what does it mean digital transformation for the banking sector?
Okay, and I think, as Kim said, the basic concept to the digital transformation is no different even in the banking industry. For now, one of the most important topic of digital transformation for the banking sector is the transformation of the branches, which have been the core of banking operations. For banks, locating branches and forming an extensive network of them helped foster trust with customers and ensure steadily solid profits are a thing of the past. For example, mobile app and websites. So these channels, have replaced the role and function of branches, which means self-service is becoming more common and integral for both customer and banks. While costs associated with physical assets have become a burden on banks' revenue, banks are trying to restructure and consolidated their stores as well as converted their low counters to private consultation rooms. Example of branch transformation include changes in infrastructure, resources, and operations. For example, in terms of infrastructure, banks are converted their low counters to private consultation rooms, and the opening of micro branches that specialize in functions for which there is a high need for face-to-face interaction, such as asset management and inheritance. In addition, while optimizing allocation of staffing and teller in the stores by relocating the extra staff to the sales staff, the bank tries to efficiently improve its resources allocation. In terms of operation, the introduction of self-service terminals has reduced the workload of counter and teller operations. In the future, most of the service provided by branches will be consolidated and in non-face-to-face channels through digital transformation. It is expected that the number of manned stores, which have been central to the maintenance and expansion of the customer base, will not only be reduced and streamlined, but will also welcome more digitization, futuristic apps, and open ecosystem with third parties so that banks can minimize operation costs. In summary, for banks, digital transformation will define new business models and business processes.
So at the end, apart from very specific services which might require some specific counseling, etc., you're saying that banks are really reducing their the human interaction in the way they provide services, and it's a matter of efficiency, and it's a matter of kind of resisting to the new competitors, right? The new online banks and all these kind of things.
Right.
Yeah. Um, Another sector I'd like to talk about is the retail sector. So Janice, you wrote a paper about that, how the digital transformation was impacting the retail sector and what it meant for customers' interaction. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
To me, digital transformation in the retail sector goes beyond the e-commerce. I feel like the next step would be to bridge the gap between the physical and the digital stores. So for me, my paper was about personalization. So I feel that the next breakthrough in retail would be that, in a way, that through the different point of contacts in the physical store and the digital stores, you are able to connect with the customers at every stage. So for instance, there's the skincare analysis from SK2, whereby they provide very personalized skincare for the customer. So this is not only possible in online, but it's also possible in the physical store. And it matches the customer at every stage. So they could be a new customer and they could be a returning customer. But at the end of the day, the retailers are still able to connect with the customers, even though they may not be as in contact physically with them. Yeah, so that to me is how digital transformation in the retail will change, which is hyper-personalization on another level, which is not only understanding customers as groups in terms of genders or age, but going in depth into their interests and their preferences and what stage they're in. Yeah.
So to an extent, digital transformation, it's not only about dematerializing, but it's also about personalizing.
Yep.
And you know, when we talk about digital transformation, and I was listening to all of you, I feel like at the end, it's really about the end customer, you know, and the relationship you have with these customers. So, and I wonder, you know, if digital transformation is not first and foremost about attracting, and retaining customers. What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I mean, I think ultimately that's what long-term growth is about. It's about, you know, building a genuine relationship beyond the immediate product or service you sell someone. So one of the amazing things, if you think about it, is that the digital revolution of so many products and services puts most of the value created back in the hands or lives of the customer. Actually, it's the same insurance product that you got 15, 20 years ago. It either does or doesn't cover you. You know, that hasn't changed. Probably nor is the cost, you know, if I think about it. But the thing that's fundamentally changed is the ability to give back people life, time. You know, I don't have to go down to a shop with some paper and come back, and it doesn't take me 5 weeks and blah, blah, blah. You know, I can snap a visual of the invoice, send it, it can go straight through processing and be back in my account within 3 days because of and all of that ease is given to the customer. You know, so I think if you're really customer centric, you can start to redistribute the value equation in your products or your categories, and think about what they would want more than just price. You know, and really sort of start to become customer centric to change the nature of the playing field for small companies to get to the front by being better in that value creation. And then once you've got a relationship, you can take that service level, that intuitive relationship, and stretch it across multiple products and services. I would bank my retail banking with an insurance company that looked after me with such fluidity and intuition. So I think it's such a disruptor for companies if they really build that customer centric relationship, for sure.
Yeah, and at the end, I feel like, you know, technology for technology makes no sense, right? And you need to have this sort of vision of why am I digitalizing something, and what's the end objective? And I feel that the end objective is always the end customer.
Yeah, I'll push back on that one bit. There is one other piece to it. You can't get dumber for trying. One of my first bosses said that to me. I think the reality is that all legacy companies that wait to digitize, or, you know, don't see the value in taking risk and failing, are genuinely, we're seeing it in the data, not progressing at the speed of the market. The reality is that change will happen exponentially, and therefore if your business isn't thinking about it at the core, it isn't changing and failing and trying and moving forward, then you will always see change as something to protect yourself from and as a danger, as opposed to the companies that see change as a place to make opportunity and go out and do stuff, try stuff, be more agile. And I think that's a fundamental in the company's makeup. Either you see the future and the winds of change as something that you should go into a safe harbor, or put up the sail and go out and enjoy the sailing.
Yeah, you're actually raising a good point because, for instance, Kai, in your paper, you were explaining how critical it was for banks nowadays to reshape the way they were providing services to the customers. But you were also highlighting the fact that there were a lot of resistance to transform internally. Why? What are there some resistance? How would you describe them?
Okay. In Japan, there is a gap between the management in the banks and the branch managers. So that is resistance to transform. Their branch managers are unable to abandon their awareness to traditional work style and not thinking to take it as a matter of your own. The mainstream branch management style in Japan has been to let each branch compete in terms of business performance, and this has led to an increase in the number of branch managers who tends to provide service in their own way, such as branch they are responsible in which there is always a large number of staff. For them, since performance appraisal for each branch office is the norm, so they have a conservative approach to the conduct of operations, probably not wanting to face risks associated with such disruption due to transformation.
They kind of want to stay in the comfort zone, I guess, the one Kim you were talking about as well.
Yes.
So Weishun, actually, your paper was all about that, right? The resistance to transform. So could you share your view on this as well?
Yeah, yes, that's totally correct. So in this age, I personally feel that digital transformation is going crazy. Everyone wants to transform the company digitally. However, a study conducted by Capgemini in 2017, they reported that 6 out of 10 respondents in their survey considered culture as the number one hurdle to digital transformation. So many companies actually struggled to implement the right digital culture in the company. So that is why there is a big resistance to digital transformation itself. So therefore, to establish a successful digital culture, I think there are a few ways that organizations can actually look into to actually improve the digital culture. Some ways can include improving or increasing the collaborative spaces in the organization, and also adopt innovative culture where we actually advocate employees to actually take risks so that they will be more open to change, as what Kim has highlighted as well.
Yeah, the startup mindset. Yeah, I guess. And that's because, yeah, at the end, if you want to transform as a company, if you want to be able to provide your customers with innovative services, you probably also need to kind of rethink or reshape the way you also operate internally. And that's why we were discussing before about that as well. Many companies struggle kind of to achieve digital maturity, as we would say, because of this cultural change that need to accompany the services change, I would say. And Kim, that's actually one thing you really highlighted as well. And I remember you saying that to an extent companies were somewhat not leading the digital revolution, and that it was not for lack of vision or knowledge, but rather for an inability to execute.
Yeah, no, totally. Totally. If you look at a number of factors, firstly, things like labs. Labs isolate both the thinking and the doing and put it somewhere else in the business, and therefore, doesn't tend to become the beacon for the business that you'd hope. And then when they try and scale it, they crush it. So labs, I think, on the whole, haven't been successful. One. Two, I think there's a real lack of putting value into the people piece. Companies change, people change, systems just come and go, and most of the companies I've seen get to about 18 months in and figure out they've spent a huge amount of money on capabilities, or as you called it out at the start, technologies, but haven't digitized, haven't thought about what they're doing differently. And so all you're doing is messing up processes, expectations, and so on, some of which are outsourced, some are inside, and you get this huge level of anxiety. You also believe that transformation is something that will come to you, and it will come of a day. None of these things are true. Most human cultures can actually focus on change for about 12 to 18 months. If it takes longer than that, people give up. There needs to be clear orientation around what you do and don't get from each of those steps of sort of metamorphosis, as it were. You don't get to become an entrepreneurial enterprise level business without taking the first steps and without taking them in an order. So I think that the thing that companies really miss is really addressing the change at the people level across top to bottom. The last piece, which I think is fascinating, is that the smartest, most, I guess, attuned, agile audiences are at the bottom. Yet most of the people making the decisions around investment and timing and anointing stuff are at the top. And so that just doesn't make sense. And I think that's legacy companies are getting at the market at the speed of stakeholder, not the speed of customer opportunity. That for me is a crux.
Very, very interesting. So how could we challenge the status quo, I would say? Wai-Shin, you were mentioning maybe we should think of...
I think traditional KPIs such as financial metrics, which normally use financial metrics, are actually outdated, because I think they actually hinders collaboration across various units. So these will actually increase the resistance to cultural transformation. So the next big thing that companies should look at to improve the digital culture is to actually to have digital KPIs in place. So what this is, they are actually indicators that actually look at whether there are collaboration across business units, whether teams are engaged to the wider ecosystem, and whether one team are encouraging other teams to actually use new behaviors. So with these new KPIs, this will actually help to imbue the right values into creating the right digital culture in the organization.
And so Kim, giving you now the opportunity to answer that, because it's interesting because yourself, you are heading an entire practice at in the APAC region. So you have to look at performances, right, of the hundreds of people that work in Capgemini Invent at APAC level. So how can we measure? Let's put ourselves in the client's position. How could we measure performance without tangible metrics such as financial KPIs? What sort of digital KPIs could we consider?
No, totally agree. I mean, you've got to go back to what you want to achieve with your customers, and or the company's ability to get at those things. So I would look at things like totally different view on it. So what is the period of, I guess, gestation between idea to execution? So if it takes a year and a half in a bank to amend something to a current account relationship or a personal loan, product or something, then what is the goal that actually serves the marketplace from idea to execution? Then you build a system and a process to serve that, not the other way around. So things go from 180 days or whatever down to 3 days in terms of acceptance or managing risk. I mean, most systems think of everyone as being guilty and keep everyone out and then filter you through. What about if you make the assumption that most people are not guilty, bring everyone in and then make it an exception where you go from an unautomated to human response? all of that sort of, I guess, business metrics that talk about the company that you want to be through those pieces, and then KPI that outcome. Things like speed, that's what you're selling in the future. Ability to take risks and see them visually. So having a data-centric view on the company's actual behaviors. Things like how agile you are by way of looking at basically releases. How often are Amazon is making 10,000 releases a day. Most companies drop new code once every 3 months. By implication, you are not creating a live value dialogue with your customers or your sales agents or your banks or whatever. So I think it's looking at the biggest, most valuable business metrics, but just looking at them in a different way. They're the KPIs that matter, because then you've got to change what you're doing and real behavioral change and capability change in order to fundamentally bring them down exponentially.
And at the client level, when we're having these sort of new KPI discussions, I guess you've seen some resistance as well, right?
I mean, because often still rolling up from Scrum teams that should be complete, that go from risk and reg all the way through to agent or bank relationship and release of products. The minute you start to do agile inside waterfall and all the KPIs are starting to drive at the leader for leader's sake, you just get these layers of, as I said, stakeholder engagement that in Asia are often, because we have multiple markets at multiple levels of maturity with multiple regulatory environments and multiple go-to-markets, you end up getting lost in all of it because of the group think around what was ostensibly previously just efficiency or best use of money, and therefore the old model of scaling it across all markets. Actually, sometimes you're better off just developing a solution for one market and then working out why that was so amazing, and then getting other markets to be inspired by that. So it's a mindset shift. You've also got most companies invest in their future closest to head office, where the key parties are. So it tends to be that the global companies innovate from the market they're in, not necessarily the markets they need to get to. So if you're not in China, you're not necessarily learning from China, for example. So you get these hack markets like in Indonesia and some of Thailand and so on that are really pushing forward, and the domestic blue chip companies are the ones that are winning exponentially because they're developing for the market, not from a foreign company looking at the lens of scale, efficiency and spend, as it were, globally. So it's a different set of rules where you've got to let the market sort of, as I said, create value in the customer's eyes, not the old model.
Excellent. So thank you all for this very insightful conversation. I guess we gave our audience some food for thought. For our audience, I invite you to have a read at the Perspectives report, especially if you want to go into more details of what we've been discussing today. So thank you again. Thank you, Kai. Thank you, Janice. Thank you, Waishun. Thank you, Yachi. Thank you, Kim. And I wish you a great day.
Very good. Thanks so much.
Thanks
Thanks a lot.
Have a good one. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.